10 Best Countries for Women to Live in Today. Is location really so important? It has a different impact on women's lives than it does on men's. Gender disparities occur in all nations in terms of education, wage levels, work prospects, and basic human rights. When it comes to gender equality in society, there are several aspects to consider. It is a complicated field of study, therefore numerous studies are being conducted to discover which nations provide the best possibilities for women. What, though, does it mean to be a woman? What does it mean to be the victim of gender discrimination? Sexist comments, statements, and attitudes can have an impact on women, and some nations outperform others in terms of education, social standards, and economy. In reality, discrimination based on gender is rare in certain locations. These countries strive to empower women. These nations provide a platform for women to seek to be industry leaders and accomplish whatever men do. They aim to address any gender inequalities in the workplace and in the way women are treated in society. Welcome to Well Life, the best place where successful people come to get inspired. Number 1. Denmark. This Scandinavian country is small, yet it is the finest location for women to live. It was placed first in a poll conducted by U.S. News & World Report that looked at gender and income equality, safety, and progressiveness. Danish retiree women are among the happiest in the world. Denmark is a social state country, therefore there is a significant price to pay for having the state care after you so well. Denmark has among of the highest tax rates in the world. However, for members of a welfare state, this translates into health care, education, and numerous societal advantages. Denmark ranks well as a wonderful area to raise a family. It also has one of the highest ratings for measuring moms' and children's well-being. Gender equality was included in the Danish constitution in 1915. Women now have the right to vote, and equality is one of the democratic constitution's basic ideals. When compared to other Scandinavian nations, Denmark still maintains a gender pay disparity. Women make 16.4% less than males per hour. Nonetheless, Denmark was rated 6th among equal countries. Denmark ranked 5th in the World Economic Forum's 2014 rankings, after Iceland, Finland, Norway, and Sweden. Number 2. Finland. The Nordic nations are pioneers in advancing women's equality rights. They live in communities that are highly progressive. In these areas, women do not have equal access to education or the same legal standing as males. However, in Finland, women outnumber males in terms of higher education. Despite the fact that women have equal access to occupations such as politics, it is a male-dominated field. In reality, men make about 2/3 of all ministers. There is still a wage disparity between men and women. Men have a somewhat greater rate, 80%, than women, 76%. Despite the fact that Norway is a progressive culture, there is still a gender disparity in average yearly income. Men make 27% more than women on average. Finland has a public daycare system and offers lunches to schoolchildren. This makes it very simpler for both parents to work full-time. Parental leave is granted for a period of 263 days. Paid time off. As a result, Finnish society is an excellent location to raise a family. Mothers are compensated for the first 105 days. Then, for the following 158 paid days, either parent might opt to stay at home. In Finland, both parents are generally employed. In reality, up to 83% of women are employed. However, if your kid is under the age of 3, you may be able to take childcare leave without losing your job. The average fertility rate among Finnish women is 1.8 children. There is still a 20% wage disparity between men and women there. This might be because more women work in the public sector, which pays less than the private sector. Number 3. Norway. How do countries deal with unequal gender ratios? These are significant social, cultural, and educational concerns that will take time to overcome. Long-term methods provide women with new potential abilities that evolve through time. There are several educational opportunities and prospective employment opportunities. Norway is another Scandinavian country working to empower women. In Norway, women outnumber males in the professional and technical workforce. How did they accomplish such an incredible result? You may be wondering if women are in charge of the country. However, the answer is no. In actuality, like in Finland, males make up 2/3 of the cabinet. Men also control the majority of positions of authority. However, Norwegian society is continuously working to improve possibilities for women. In reality, there are official initiatives in Norway that encourage young females to pursue non-traditional disciplines. The government even set aside specific posts at universities for women at one time, although this was eventually challenged in court and determined to be unconstitutional. In terms of board member gender ratios, the Norwegian parliament has imposed gender quotas on corporations and organizations. Norway is a progressive country that considers men's rights as well. They mandated 6 weeks of paternity leave for fathers. The Norwegian government guarantees that women are free from violence and takes action on these concerns. The safety of women is a key priority. These are progressive concepts that have sparked considerable discussion in Norwegian culture. Reserving a job is a type of reverse discrimination. However, there are underlying principles that Norway want to address. Gender equality, equal opportunity, and other comparable ideals are never complete. No country is completely devoid of gender disparities, but striving for change is a significant step forward in Norway. Number 4. Iceland. Iceland is a stunningly beautiful nation full with natural beauties, as well as a haven for women and education. Women outnumber males in the tertiary educated population by 60%. In the pursuit of higher education, women outnumber males by a wide margin. In Iceland, like in other Scandinavian nations, 2/3 of the government is made up of males. Iceland is one among the top countries in terms of narrowing the gender gap, with an 87% completion rate. It is ranked first in the world by the World Economic Forum. Iceland has made significant progress. It raised the proportion of women in parliament from 25% in the 1980s to 35% now. Increasing women's representation in government shows these countries' attempts to achieve gender equality. Iceland has stringent gender equality legislation. It also has a regulatory agency that may levy a daily punishment of €500 on firms who violate gender ratios. Men and women make up about equal proportions of the labor force. Both men and women can take paternity, maternity leave. They are considering extending it from 9 months to a year. Both parents are given 3 months, with the remainder divided between them. Iceland has one of the highest fertility rates in the world, at 2.1, which is significantly higher than the European average of 1.5. What distinguishes Iceland? How did it attain such success? Aside from enacting gender equality legislation, many government agencies keep a close eye on society. Iceland is a forward-thinking country that defies gender norms. It also strives to address inequalities, gender discrimination, harassment, and violence. The Center for Gender Equality, the Equal Status Committee, and the Complaints Committee are all entrenched in Iceland's social responsibility and legal organizations. Number 5. Sweden. Sweden is a country where women thrive in education, with some of the highest levels of education in the world. In reality, girls outperform boys on average, even in male-dominated disciplines like math and science. At the undergraduate level, women account for 60% of students and obtain 2/3 of all degrees. This is an amazing educational achievement. At the postdoctoral level, women make up 44% of students. Women and gender ratios are protected under Swedish legislation. It is unlawful to discriminate against someone depending on their gender. Employers are required under the Equal Opportunities Act to promote gender equality. Women operate a large number of businesses in Sweden, both private, limited firms and those that are publicly traded. In fact, women lead more than a quarter of the businesses in the area. When it comes to women's economic involvement in society, Sweden is a global leader. Furthermore, the gender pay gap is among the lowest in the world, at around 80%. This discrepancy is explained by variables other than gender. Working in the commercial sector or holding public office, as well as age and experience, all play a role in this complex equation. Surprisingly, Sweden has yet to elect a female prime minister, unlike her Nordic neighbors. Female prime ministers have served in Finland, Norway, and Iceland. Sweden is a welfare state that gives financial assistance to parents regardless of whether their kid is born or adopted. Families are also entitled to 480 days of parental leave. If a family adopts a kid, the parents are entitled to 18 months of parental leave regardless of the child's age. If a family has twins, the father is given additional newborn leave. Number 6. Germany. This European country is ranked 11th in the World Economic Forum's Global Gender Gap Report. Most Scandinavian nations rank well in terms of gender pay disparities, while Germany still has a significant income disparity. However, Germany performs well in a variety of other categories, including education. The salary disparity may exist because women select different occupations. When it comes to educational and professional options, they prefer humanities and, softer, sciences. Germany has recognized this trend and has created a government effort to encourage women to study in traditionally male-dominated fields. Engineering, math, and science are examples of technical fields. Germany is a progressive country, as its outstanding leader, Angela Merkel, exemplifies. She was chosen as the country's first female chancellor in 2005. Women's rights are well protected by German law. Gender equality is enforced by national and state laws. The Federal Act on Equal Opportunities for Men and Women, as well as the General Equal Treatment Act, establish men and women's equality. Although some have challenged their state legislation, they have not been found to contravene gender equality principles. To address these challenges, the German government created the Gender Competence Center. Each state is responsible for enforcing its own laws or those of the federal government. Men and women attend university in about equal percentages, 40.6% and 38%, respectively. This is a similar gender ratio, although the numbers for women alter significantly at higher levels. The ratio falls to 22.7% at the postdoctoral level. Except for medical science, the humanities and cultural studies have a significantly higher ratio of women than the sciences. Number 7. England. England is seeing a rising lad culture, which is undermining gender equality and women's rights. It is a popular, rebellious reaction to society that has been defined as an anti-intellectual attitude, scorning sensitivity. This boys' club, according to a UN special report, mentally reflects a sexist culture. Indeed, others claim that the lad culture has prevented some women from finishing their professional education. The media frequently reflects a society's value, and the Sun tabloid was famed for its page 3 nude photos. A No More Page 3 campaign in 2012 discovered that males, on the whole, want to preserve the topless glamour model page. Only 12% of women opted to maintain it. There are noticeable disparities in schooling between men and women. Education inequity is linked to gender-specific school curricular practices. Girls, on the other hand, surpass boys in subjects such as reading and arithmetic. In reality, women are more likely than males to attend university. Despite the fact that more women educate for future jobs and better working hours and salaries, males continue to outperform women. This indicates that there is a significant gender difference in terms of earning potential between men and women. Even when the time element is removed, there is still a salary disparity. The pay disparity widens with time. Women and men in their 40s and 50s receive different incomes. Despite the fact that women outperform men in school, it has little influence on women's future jobs in England. Number 8. Canada. Women outweigh males in secondary and university education achievement in Canada. Despite this number, women encounter obstacles in upper tertiary education. In addition, there is a well-known glass ceiling in the job market. This indicates that a woman's professional path may reach a stage when she will not be promoted due to her gender. Because of robust childcare laws and maternity leave rules in Canada, more women work. However, there exist salary disparities between men and women, thus Canada must close the gender gap. Despite legislative concepts promoting equality, there are still significant gender disparities in income potential and professional opportunities. Women are more likely to choose careers in the softer sciences and humanities. However, girls make up a tiny proportion of the workforce in traditionally male-dominated sectors such as technology and engineering. Despite the fact that men and women get the same amount of degrees. Despite theoretically equal educational options, Canadian women continue to be underrepresented in these fields. Gender equality ideals are included in the 1982 Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Gender equality is promoted by the Canadian Human Rights Act in all aspects of public life, from education to work. The Multiculturalism Act of 1998 also promoted and protected women's rights, particularly those of Indigenous women and immigrants. Regardless of the rules, there is still a gender gap that has to be bridged in order for women to experience more equality in general. Number 9. Ireland. Do you have the luck of the Irish? To combat gender discrimination, Ireland has robust legislation in place, such as the Employment Equality Act of 1998. It combats prejudice in areas such as fair pay, employment, training, and work experience. The Equal Status Act of 2000 aims to prevent discrimination in all other sectors. The NDP Gender Equity Unit, which advises the government on gender equality, is also a support and advisory agency. In the last 50 years, Ireland has come a long way. When compared to earlier generations, young women now make up a considerably higher proportion of the labor force. Women aged 25 to 34 made up just 30% of the population in 1975. In 2004, this percentage was 76%. However, there are several elements to consider when determining the gender ratio. Women with 2 or more children under the age of 16, for example, account for just 22% of the labor force. Ireland has far fewer female politicians than nations such as Sweden. However, in order to comprehend the country's society, it is also necessary to study its past. Ireland is not a welfare state, and there are no unique advantages in comparison to Scandinavian nations. There is a dearth of extensive parental leave and mechanisms that make it simpler to be a working mother. There aren't many nations in the world that provide built-in daycare and food for children. In social welfare regimes, these sorts of benefits are more easily available. So, what does all of this imply for Ireland? It indicates that Ireland is a progressive country with well-established regulations that safeguard women in the workplace and in society as a whole. However, there is still a gap to be bridged in comparison to the Scandinavian nations. Number 10. New Zealand. When it comes to empowering women in society, New Zealand ranks high. In fact, it has closed 79% of its gender disparity, placing it 9th. In the last year, New Zealand has made strides toward empowering women in politics. And it is ranked 12th in this category. New Zealand is known for more than simply its natural beauty and kiwi fruit. However, the research discovered a pay disparity between men and women. Women earn 30% less than their male colleagues on average. In fact, the gender disparity has widened somewhat during the previous decade, according to the research. According to estimates, 56% of women's labor and 29% of men's employment goes unpaid. The predicted time for entirely eliminating the workplace gender gap is 217 years, while the worldwide gender gap is 100. New Zealand recently rejected measures to make wages public. This change would have enabled salary comparisons depending on gender. This has occurred in nations such as Australia and the United Kingdom, and has proved to be extremely contentious. It's a complicated subject, and there are debates about pay discrepancies that have nothing to do with gender. Experience, work performance, and remuneration in the public and private sectors are all important considerations. When the pay of individual BBC staff were made public, it generated discussion since there were significant disparities between men and women doing the same job.